Good day, everybody. I'm Redeyes, and welcome back to What's This Then? For today, I'm here to ask and answer that very question about Tainted Grail, the Fall of Avalon. Now, this one is an interesting one. So, it's a dark fantasy open world RPG developed by Questline, published by Awaken Realms. Now, their previous game, Questline that is, was Tainted Grail Conquest, which was a roguelike deck builder kind of game. I believe it was a prequel to this one. I'm not 100% sure on that because I never actually played it, but I just looked into it a little bit. But certainly set in the same universe as this. I believe it used to just be called Tainted Grail, but got the Conquest moniker after this game sort of was picking up steam. Speaking of Steam, you can pick it up on Steam. I believe that is the only platform currently. May have some plans for other platforms potentially in the future, but as of right now, just on Steam. Released 23rd of May this year. Now, it was in early access since 2023, 30th of March actually, so it's been in early access for a couple of years. It also has a free demo to try, just so if you see anything that you like here, then you've got a free demo to go and just have a look at, give it a go. And you can pick this one up for £37.99 or £37.99 or $44.99. Now, the reason I say this one's interesting is because we have what the community or general online sentiment seems to be calling indie Enter Morrowind, Oblivion, or Skyrim, whatever your Bethesda open world RPG of choice is. And on one hand, I would say that's not too far off the mark, and on the other hand, I would say that's honestly doing a disservice to this game. Now, before we get properly into that and into the gameplay and I can discuss why that is, let's just hop into the settings so I can show you what we're dealing with in here. So, in the game options here, we've got like tutorials, autosave frequency. I'd recommend having this on a low number just because you never know when it's a little bit of a janky game. There's some jank. With the scope and size of this game, you're gonna see jank. So I recommend having an autosave frequency at a low number here. Perspective, there is first and third person in this game, however third person isn't really recommended. It's more so as an accessibility option. They even say it the first time you hit, I believe it's Z to go into third person. They're like, it's not really meant for this, we added it as an accessibility, so probably wouldn't recommend playing in this, but you know, maybe use it to look at your character or whatever, or if you just don't like first person. You've got distance, you've got camera sensitivity, you've got camera kill effects. This is just a little slow motion thing that plays during these specific types of kills, critical stealth and weak spot. Toggle some HUD stuff so you can turn off the compass or show quest trackers. You can turn those off if you wish. Inverse hands for magic, so you can dual wield magic spells. So obviously left click is going to be the one in your right hand, so you can toggle this to be the other way around if you wish. So left click is left hand, right click right hand, etc. Allow tool use without prompt. I would recommend keeping this off for definitely for mining, because it'll basically, you walk up to a mineable thing and it'll pop up a prompt saying, hey, press this button to use your tool. It just means you don't have to like worry about whether you know, is this mineable, is it not, blah blah blah. Show quick use wheel, yep. Don't show helmet on here, classic, you know, if you don't want to see your helmet. CPU infinity, this is just how much of your CPU you want the game to use. I've cranked this all the way up because I want that max performance. Audio-wise, we've got some good stuff in here. Well, I say good stuff, it's pretty much everything you'd need. Voiceover, video, volume, SFX, music, master. Now, one thing I did is I noticed that everything was at 100% except music. It was at 70 or 80%, I believe, by default. I cranked that up to 100% because I like hearing music in games. I don't like it to be like drowned out by everything else. Keep it at 80%, or whatever the default is. It is definitely mixed around that idea. Turning up to 100% deafened me the first time I went into a fight. That was pretty fun. There's also a nice one, disable copyrighted music. Now, I have been streaming this game, and I haven't had any issues with any music getting flagged for copyright, so use at your own discretion, I believe, if this is something that interests you at all. The music in this game is excellent, by the way, but again, you're hearing it in the background right now, but we'll get into more of that. Display, you've pretty much got everything you need, borderless, full screen, 4K support, FPS limiter, VSync, display number. Field of view, lovely, goes all the way up to 120, which is very, very nice. I think 120 is a little bit high for me personally, so you're getting like fish lens effect or whatever it's called. Motion blur, you can toggle it on and off, and there's even an intensity. I personally just prefer to have it off. Contrast and brightness. Video settings, have a look in here. So, you've got your preset. Whenever you load up the game, it will give you like a predetermined one based on your hardware. You've got DLSS. I would probably recommend having this. So I'm running this game at 4K on a 4090, so your mileage may vary, but I have found that out in the open world, I was feeling the chugs. So I turned DLSS on. Now you can just sort of individually do a percentage of the quality, which is nice instead of just going with NVIDIA's like usual default values. And then you can put that to 100%, and I believe that'll sort of act as a DLA, I believe it is. Now, there's this setting which is a little bit confusing. It's just miscellaneous, and you can just, you know, low, medium, and high. It doesn't tell you what it does, so your guess is as good as mine. I wish they would be a bit more specific, at least with this tooltip, you know, just say like, here's all the things it affects. You got view distance. You will notice pop-in in this game, probably. If you're sensitive to pop-in, you'll definitely notice it. It's just that sort of game. Texture quality's got all that stuff. Vegetation, fog quality, chromatic aberration, shadows, subsurface scattering. So lots of good stuff in there. You can really tweak this if you're like after some higher FPS and stuff. Accessibility options. You've got stuff like turning off head bobbing, which I know a lot of people really like. Can maybe make people feel a bit motion sickness and stuff. There's FOV, field of view modifier strength, which is if you are doing anything in the game that would modify your FOV, you can set it to be like, no, I don't want it to modify that actually, or I want that to modify it really hard. I like that it goes up to 200%, that's fun. This is an interesting one, screen shake, proactive or reactive. You can set it so proactive is the things you do cause screen shake, and reactive is things hitting you causing screen shake. So it's nice that they've differentiated that, because maybe you like screen shake whenever you're in control of it, but you hate screen shake whenever it's like something hitting you and you don't really have control over it. You can do scale stuff, HUD scale, HUD background, large UI mode. On 4K I don't feel like this is needed, UI is plenty fine. But if you need it a bit bigger, font size, that feels fine on medium. Lots of subtitle stuff. Dialogue auto events, this is a nice one. If dialogue tends to just sort of whiz by and then you maybe miss something, you can have it so that you have to press the button to advance it, so you can reread at your own sort of speed. Controls, we have fully rebindable controls, very, very nice, as we like to see. And then others, just like data collecting credits and all that sort of stuff. So, let's hop into the game. Now you'll notice from the main menu and the loading screens here that the art style is very, very dark, you know. When I said dark fantasy, did mean it. This welcome to the Southern Horns, which is the sort of area that the game initially at least takes place in. I don't know if we'll be moving to different areas, I'm not 100% sure. I've put about 14 hours into this game, and I know that I like this series to be a sort of first impressions, but when we're dealing with a game of this size, or potential size, I feel like, yeah, 14 hours, 15 hours, that's probably a good initial impression. You'll notice my little guys here. Whenever I loaded up the game for the first time and had a look at the skill tree, I noticed that there was summoning in this game. And if you know anything about me, is if there's a summoner build, or like a necromancer build, minion build, I'm there. So basically, I don't want to show you any story stuff, so I'm not going to be touching any story related quests or anything here today. I believe I have a quest just to show over here. Yeah, I've got a bounty quest over there, which is, you know, just here's a person who's causing havoc around the place. I will pay you to go and kill them and bring me back proof type quest. You know the one. So I'll probably head that way and we'll just sort of discuss how the game does. So, indie Bethesda game, I guess, is the community adopted way to describe this. And like I said, on one hand it kind of does a disservice, and on the other hand it's kind of apt, because it feels like it's kind of the next step in this type of game. You know, like, if Elder Scrolls 6 does not have the systems that this does, if it does not have the interesting world building and discovery and honestly maturity that this game does, then I will consider Bethesda to still be stagnating. Whereas with this game, I feel like in every way, bar like visuals, and given the fact that it's a lower budget title, I can totally understand that. And sacrifice some visuals to make your game play better, like absolutely 100%. But in every way, this game is like a step forward than anything Bethesda has been sort of resting on for a while. Or at least that's how I felt playing it. You know, maybe I'll get to the end and be like, you know what, but I just don't see that happening. The game continually impresses me. Every time I sit down and play it, there's some new thing I find that's like, wow, they didn't need to do that, and yet here it is, and it works, and it's great, and I love it. If you can't already tell, I've been having a great time with this. Now, to speak a little bit on the combat, I suppose, while we're doing it. It is stamina based. You can see in the bottom left, health, magicka, and stamina. And you get like a nice little dash, depending on your equip load. Depends on how many dashes you get. There's some skills that can increase that, all sorts of things. Let's get on that. Pick up a few bits of loot. But this game, the way I say, it's a bit of a disservice to call it like a Bethesda-like. Not only is this game that one step further than Bethesda sort of stuff, it's also taking inspiration from a lot of other RPGs. One big inspiration that you can feel while playing this a lot, and I may be able to tell just from like the music and stuff, is Witcher 3. This was definitely inspired by Witcher 3. The systems, the fact that like whenever you kill monsters and you get all the like monster parts and you can turn those into alchemy, and it just feels very Witcher. It's a hard one to explain without just seeing it. So hopefully we'll get to a monster and I can show you that. But like the way the UI is, you know, it's just you can just feel it. It doesn't feel like a ripoff, like absolutely not. Like it feels like, hey, this game went. This was a really cool thing from that game. This is a really cool thing from that game. We want it in our game, and we're gonna make it work with all of our systems. Yeah, you get these cool dashes when you're dashing around in combat. It's very fun. It makes the melee combat very lively, and you can build a character very much around like being very dexterous and, you know, a bit of a glass cannon zipping around the place. It's very fun. Oh, here's a wolf, so let's bonk you with the hammer. Oh, I've dashed around. Sometimes it's easy to like accidentally dash. I've found that's just a few little bits of the jank that I sort of talked about. Here we have our, you know, here's the lock-picking minigame. The one. Actually just got an achievement there for lock-picking 50 locks, so there you go. Let's give you a nice little taste of the hammer. Oh! There we go. Sometimes you get little, like, kill cams like that. Sometimes you can activate them yourself, like if someone's staggered, I believe, you can press E and it'll sort of do it yourself, or you can just whack them. You know, do whatever you want. Right, let's see, we're gonna avoid that way, because that leads to something else. We're gonna head down this direction, I believe. Yes, this will be the best way to go, through the wall here. Now, you'll notice it's definitely not a bad-looking game. Now, for me personally, and this is going to be up to everyone's, I want to say taste, but it wouldn't be taste, it would just be up it'll be personal preference, it'll be up to yourself, how much you sort of notice. Like, I look at the world and I think, damn, this is not a bad looking game, but I can see that it's on, like, you know, the lower end of like the budget type stuff. You know, it's just not quite as dense foliage wise, or, you know, etc, stuff like that. But when I think about the scope of this game, when I think about the fact that we are technically talking about an indie game here, it just loops back around to being like, wow, okay, this is really impressive. The fact that all these systems work, the fact that the world looks this good, it's this open, it's this interesting. So, I've been playing Oblivion Remastered, obviously, since it came out, and I haven't had the same sense of exploration in that game that I have had in this. Now, I had a good sense of exploration in Oblivion. Like, there's a lot of stuff to find, you walk off somewhere, there's always something to find, but a lot of those things tend to be very similar. Now, obviously, we're talking about a game from, you know, a good while ago now, but it's been remastered visually. But it would be kind of a similar case for Skyrim, where a lot of the stuff you find, it's going to be like, here's a cave, here's a tower, you know. Whereas in this game, so far, everything I've found has been pretty unique, which is very impressive. And that's the part of it that kind of reminds me of something more like The Witcher or Elden Ring, you know, where everything I'm finding, even if I can look at it and say, okay, this area is very similar to that, the way it's done with how I find something, or the enemies that are there, or maybe there's a little like mini story to be had here. It all just feels really, really interesting, and I feel so compelled at all times in this game to explore. And it constantly has me like, now I've been around this area before, so I've already kind of looked around, but at all times in this game, when I'm in like a new area or forging a new path somewhere, I just look around and go, I want to go over there. I want to see what's up there. What's in that direction? You know, what's over there? There's a tower over there. What's down there? Just tons of stuff. Really, really good. They nailed that part of it, like absolutely 100%. Now to show you a little bit of the menus, so you can have a look here. I'm looking very stylish, as you can see. So you've got your sort of equip slots here on the right. So you have individual slots for like helmet, chest piece, leg piece, boots, you know, that sort of stuff. So there's plenty of options for making your character look how you want and build crafting. That is one of the things that I think this game as well does really, really well. It sells me on the idea of these different build archetypes really, really well. Like, I already have had thoughts about like, oh, I want to start a new game, but as a you know, a stealth archer, because I feel like this game is really going to let that build flourish. I want to start this game as a bit of an assassin with dual wielding daggers. I want to restart this game as a full mage. I want to do a spell blade. Right now I'm kind of going with like a death knight kind of thing, because I'm going to be going into like stuff like heavy armor and summoning, and the way summoning works in this game is probably my favorite implementation of it, where it's you can summon a bunch of guys and they'll cap your mana lower the more you have, but they'll stay forever, you know, and then you buff them from there. But you have, just to go over more of this here, you have weapon loadouts, so you have 4 weapon loadouts, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you just put what you want in there, what you want in there, what you want in there, and then you just hit 1, 2, 3, and 4, swap between them. You've got your quick slots for your healing, and then you've got your autofill slots. This will autofill with stuff like food. Food is huge in this game, absolutely massive. Absolutely brilliant source of healing, and it can be really strong as well, like you see some of the stuff here. Because cooking is like a whole skill in this game that you can improve and make better. In fact, why don't I just show you? So I'll show you the status here. This is where it would show you what buffs and debuffs you have. This is currently showing what level of dash I have. Defines how many times you can dash in a row without any penalty, so I have the optimal dash right now. This will be based on weight here. So it's saying optimal dash in the sense that like it's not impeded, but you can get more dashes with lower weight limit and stuff like that. So if you're going really light armor, you can dash all over the place. Alright, status. This is where you see your sort of like skills and stuff. Strength, endurance, dexterity, spirituality, and practicality. And within all of those, you've got, you know, one-handed, two-handed, blocking, athletics, light armor, medium armor, heavy armor, all sorts of stuff. Lots of really, really cool stuff. Practicality is a fun one just because it's got like alchemy, cooking, and handcrafting. I think that's a fun name for it, practicality. Alright, if I show you attributes, so each one of those like one-handed and stuff is governed by strength, but strength itself, for example, when you level up, you put a point into strength, and that will give you melee damage plus 1%, max stamina plus 3, armor weight multiplier minus 1%. Now, the numbers, so plus 1% melee damage may not look too interesting, but the numbers we're dealing with in this game are quite small. So, plus 3 max stamina, when you have 55 after some levels and already some points here, is kind of big. You know, like over time, after like a few levels, like that adds up pretty heavily. Especially when you see that like this weapon uses 28 stamina points to swing it, for example. So the numbers may look small, but they're very meaningful numbers. So it's definitely one thing that can throw you off at first, but once you get around it, it's pretty nice. And you'll notice there's stuff like melee damage, 85%. Your character actually starts with, I believe it's 80%, or it might be slightly more or less than that. I can't quite remember at the beginning. But your character starts not being that good at stuff, naturally. It's not like you start being neutral, you start being bad. And then as you put points into strength, you sort of bring that up to, okay, now I'm sort of on par, I'm trained. And then as you go beyond that, it's, okay, now I'm like nuts, you know, now I'm crazy. And the sense of... I would say the sense of power, the sense of progression is really good so far. Like, I feel like my character is significantly stronger, especially because the way this game does its world is characters just have preset, like, levels. You know, you don't see the levels, but they have preset, like, this area has enemies of this strength. This area has enemies of this strength, you know? And if you were to come back to those areas because they were kicking your ass, come back to them later when you're stronger, and now you're kicking its ass, you know, and that sense of progression is really, really good. But yeah, so you got like a bunch of these different stats here, do all sorts of different stuff, like perception in here, for example, is one that you don't find here because it's just a stat for this, pretty much. But there's also like a certain speech, persuasion attempts and stuff like that, but might use perception because your character noticed something, or, you know, all that sort of stuff. So these there is no speech stat, but it's kind of like Fallout New Vegas, where your strength can influence speech because you're a strong guy and you might know something because you're a big strong guy. Who knows? Let's have a look at the skill tree. Now, there are many skill trees. So just in the strength page alone, there are 81 different points to be spent. Endurance 42, Dex 61, Spirituality 81, Fit, like there's tons here. There's like the fine detail that you can go into on your character's build is crazy. And this is what makes me realize, like, hey, I would love to restart and play as this totally different character and go into this whole different thing and just experience the game in a whole different way. I think it's really, really cool. Really well done. So you can see the one I've gone into exclusively at this point is the summoning tree, because, like I said, love my summons. So we have stuff in here, like, just to give you an example of what the stats are like, each active summon increases your mana regeneration by 25%. Like, that's pretty huge. So if you're using all the summons you can, your mana bar is probably going to be quite short. So your regeneration goes crazy because of this. Like, 25% per summon. I can have 5 summons. Like, that's a crazy amount of regeneration, but I don't have very much mana, so it balances out, but also keeps it, like, interesting. Reduces the amount of mana reserved by summons by 30%. That's a huge one, especially as you get the more expensive ones. Increase your summon limit to 5. I went immediately to that one. When summons die, they restore 10% health to other ones. Summons gain health regeneration. So by default, they don't regen health, but now it's like, okay, now we have health regeneration based on your mana regeneration, and if you have this, then, you know, now you got synergies. Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. I really like the skill trees here. I'm not sure what I'm going to go into next, because so far I've just tunnel visioned summoning, but going for a bit of a death knight, I can jump all around the place. It's very, very cool. And each stat feels useful to each sort of character type, so I don't feel like, oh, maybe I'm wasting a point here. You know, max stamina is always good for everyone. Armor weight multiplier is always good for everyone. That sort of stuff. Health, you know, encumbrance limit, good for everyone. Attack speed, good for everyone. Max mana, maybe only good if you're a mage, but, you know, if you're doing melee only. But it's all really good stuff. I've had a lot of fun. Is there anything else I want to show you in here? So you've just got your usual, like, quest journal and stuff like that, and you've got, like, monster journal, and the bestiary gives you, like, a description of each one of them and stuff. This is where, like, stuff like, oh, you know, the Witcher inspirations sort of feel like they're coming in. But let's keep heading in the direction of our target. So another thing that I feel bears talking about is the technical state of the game. Now, there have been some bugs. There have certainly been some bugs. I haven't had anything too crazy. I have had one very minor bug. Now, it hasn't happened to me the last time I played, but before that it was happening to me like every time. So I don't know if it was maybe like an item or something, but basically when I would stand still, my character would look like they're kind of jogging on the spot, and the camera would kind of be doing this. That was a little bit annoying. Other than that, I haven't really noticed any bugs, honestly. Like, so, there's jank, you know, there's jank. But bugs and jank, in my mind, are two different things. Jank can be like an NPC is kind of dancing on the spot whenever they're trying to get around something to get you. You know, it's not broken, it's just janky and doesn't quite know how to get past this tree, and then they eventually do and it's all fine or whatever. A bug would be like the character is just standing here and you're hitting him and nothing's happening. So I haven't really noticed much of that, to be honest. Ooh, what is this? Stagfather Shrine. Stagfather's Trial. I have no idea what this is. I've just activated a giant fight against a weird deer, apparently. And they're running away from me. Oh, so, and I've got like a time trial, so I'm on a timer to kill these things. Oh, that's interesting. So that again, that is something totally new that I've never seen before. So there's a couple of shrines dotted about, and a lot of the times they'll be like, give me an offering of these items, and you will either get an item or some kind of one-off buff, a permanent buff, like a 3% more critical damage, for example. Is that it? Can I not try this again? I bet I'll have to wait like a day, and then I could try that again. Oh, actually, that's something I could talk about. So if you hold Q, you have like your weapon wheel, pretty standard. But over on the left, this is kind of like a utility wheel. One of the things you can do, put down a bonfire, and this is how you level up, which is pretty interesting. Can't level up anywhere outside of sitting at a bonfire. So you would go in here, you would put your points in, blah, blah, blah. You can cook here. This is one of the practicality stats. So cooking, you can hit a randomize button and it will just do random ingredients, or you can go to your recipes and see what you can make. If you experiment and make a recipe that exists in the game, then it gets added to your recipe list. So you are encouraged to experiment with the cooking. So once again, much like I was saying, how this game takes bits from the best RPGs out there and goes, oh, we'd love that for our game. Breath of the Wild's cooking system, you know, it's really, really rewards experimentation of just grabbing stuff, chucking it in a pot, and most of the time you're going to be rewarded. In this game, it's a little bit more strict. You're not always going to get some delicious meal, but at the very least, you will always get an uncooked or an undercooked meal, I believe it's called. And it's not going to be anywhere near as like potent as the recipes, but they're going to be like good, you know, like you'd use them. Like, in fact, I use them as my first source of healing all the time, so it's not bad to do the experimentation. You're not wasting anything, certainly. So that's really cool. You can rest, because, you know, you want to wait till the next time. Now you'll notice here, the air is thick with weirdness, so it'd be wise to keep your eyes open. So, at nighttime, this game kind of wants to encourage you... Oh, I've been attacked by a bear. Now, we'll finish that thought in a moment. Bears are kind of nasty. So we're going to bonk him with the hammer a few times. And we're going to summon a few more boys because we only have 3 of them. The bear's actually killing them quite fast, so we'll just keep summoning. Then we'll rock in, help the boys out. He's killing the boys again. He's attacking me. Get more boys in there. Me and the boys got the hammers. There we go. Lovely. Interrupted me. Oh, I've actually become over-encumbered. So there is an encumbrance system in this game. I remember when I first started playing, I didn't notice the little number up here, and I thought there wasn't actually an encumbrance system in the game, and I got really excited, because I feel like these sorts of games just don't need an encumbrance system. Like, I really don't. I don't understand. I mean, I guess it's just I feel like you need to go hard with it, or you need to not have it. You know, you need to make it some big thing, or you need to make it not a thing, if that makes sense. But to sort of go over here, yeah, so you can rest till nighttime or whatever. This game puts an emphasis on you probably don't want to be out at night. Now you can certainly do it, but basically bad things happen at night. You, through story reasons, can go out at night and it will still be bad for you. But if a normal person were to go out at night, it's like fucked, you know. Now what you can do as well is you can use an ethereal cobweb, which is a type of resource you get from enemies. Some enemies drop them every time, and some enemies will drop them only at night. But you can get access to different things at your fire. So you fuel the fire, it was all purple, and now you've got a few different things. So fast travel, the way it works in this game, is to be able to fast travel, from your campfire, you need to spend that resource. And then I could like fast travel back here, for example. However, if you do not have that resource, then you must go to a fast travel point to be able to fast travel, which I really like that system. I am of the personal belief that fast travel should be some kind of give and take. It shouldn't just be freely accessible that you can do all the time every time, or else I feel like you become very disconnected from the world after a while. Whereas this system incentivizes, at the very least, backtracking over a few places now and again, which I think is fun. But some people may not like that, so it's, you know, I personally think this system is a good middle ground. You can also identify. You may find some items that you don't know what they are, and you will have to spend this resource again to identify them. And this also means you can do alchemy here as well, because your fire is, I don't know, more alchemically proper or something, who knows. But yeah, so the campfire system's really cool. I just kind of did that, but yeah, I'm not going to actually make use of it. A couple of other things. There's a really neat little feature in this game. I don't really think I've seen it in any other game. Now, most games would have a photo mode, and if I hit escape, this game does also have a photo mode. But you can buy a sketchbook, and then whatever you're looking at, you can hit E. And I've just drawn what's in front of me. And that will include these little guys if I draw a picture of them. And there they are, they're in there. You can also use the book as a weapon. You can stab someone with the pen. So that's fun. And one thing I found out when I was streaming this yesterday is those sketches go into your bag here. And you can look at them. And you can also sell them. Like, it's only 1 gold. But if I'm out there drawing sketches, like, who knows, maybe we'll find a character who pays more for sketches, maybe we'll find a character who wants me to go out and sketch certain things, like, who knows, like, that's just such a fun thing, it's such a fun idea, something I haven't really seen done before, I love it. There's also the spyglass, which lets you zoom in on areas, and it is quite the zoom, really is quite the zoom, and then you can be like, set a marker for over there, you know, I want to explore that, and then you can hit M and be like, oh, that was over there. I believe I can remove it, yeah. So, cool little spyglass for doing some exploration. If you see something in the distance, you're like, I'm not sure what that is, and be like, oh, okay, that's what that is. I'll set a marker and head that way. Very cool. And you may have noticed there's also one of a horse. I only just recently got this. I literally just stole someone's horse, I think. Or it was like a bandit with a horse, and I took it. There is... oh. Okay, so remember when I said there's no bugs? Or I haven't come across any real bugs? Yeah, of course, as soon as I make a video talking about the game and all that sort of stuff, then I get a bug. So... this is a slight conundrum. I think if I do this, fast travel... cannot fast travel while underwater. Well, that's very unfortunate, and it's now freaking out. Okay, this has gone. this has gone terribly. So I'm just going to reload a save, and that is another good reason to have your autosaves happening frequently, because you never know when something like that might happen. That's the first time I've had that. To be fair, I haven't had the horse very long. Maybe the horse is more buggy than most things. Thankfully, we're only right here, so that worked out pretty well. But that's so funny. Can't believe that. I talk about how I haven't come across any real bugs yet, and then I go and have that happen to me. But yeah, so, as I was saying, there is a horse riding in this game. Which, again, like, as I was playing through this game, I was like, there's just another thing in it. You know, just one more thing in there that I just didn't think... or I didn't even think, like, yeah, when's that going to happen? And the game just goes, oh yeah, also this, by the way. I don't know how useful the horse is going to be. You know, with the fast travel being the way it works, maybe it will be more useful. Right now, I'm very much in the exploratory phase, where I'm just going around exploring new places, so... the horse isn't so useful to me, because I like to explore everything at a sort of pace of my own. But it looks like we have our little bandit camp here, so I'm going to make a little quick save, and we're going to get in here. So if I was doing like a sneaky character, you know, I could be sneaking up and, you know, maybe shooting a few arrows, or, you know, doing all that sort of stuff, but... not me, we're death knighting it. That is a large man. Well, he is called the Giant, to be fair. So that makes sense. We're just gonna bonk him with a big hammer. And we're gonna summon the boys. I'll take out the archers because they can be an absolute pain. Let's keep getting the boys in there. We'll get back to hitting this guy with the hammer. Summon some more boys. Keep them healthy, keep them topped up. Oh, he's drinking healing potions. That's the first time I've seen anyone do that. It's interesting. And the boy, me and the boys just... I think we hit him so hard he actually fell through the floor. Oh no, here he is. He popped up over here. Take his stuff. Giant sword, yeah, we want that. And a young boy's letter. So that'll be some stuff. Maybe some little story, you know, it kind of reminds me of... This is another thing that reminds me of The Witcher 3, for example. There is no quest that is just kind of like in a vacuum. It feels like everything leads or ties in to something else in the game in some way. You know, there's some story thing going on. So here's our plunder. We got the giant sword. Restores 60 stamina when delivering a killing blow. That's pretty huge. Uses 39 stamina to use. That is more than half of my stamina just to swing it. Does a lot of damage, to be fair, but requires strength to use. Now, you can still use weapons if you don't meet the requirements, but depending on how close to the requirements you are or how far away, the weapon might be, like, useless, or it might be like, it's kind of okay. So the game has an interesting way of showing things. So you'll have the damage number you see there, 3235. Now that is the default damage number of this weapon. Now, depending on whether you don't meet the requirements or maybe you meet the requirements and then you also have some buffs, you'll see numbers in red, you'll see numbers in green. Now all these systems kind of interlock with each other, so it can be a little bit confusing to get your head around. But, for example, Strength 8, I don't have Strength 8, so I'm not doing the full damage. I'm only doing 17 to 18 on that one. But I believe that it's showing the number in green because I have some stat buffs to my melee damage currently. Normally it would be in red because it's showing less than, because I don't meet the requirements. But then I think it's showing in green because those buffs are then taking it up and the green takes priority. So just know that the number in brackets is what you are actually doing with the weapon. The white numbers to the left just show this is the default damage numbers. And your stats, your build, your character or whatever will have higher or lower based on various effects. So let's drop some stuff because I am very heavy. Don't need all them hides. Don't need... torch, we can get rid of you. They're pretty situational. Yeah, so now we've got the giants thing. We've got that note. We can have a look around, find that these guys properly messed up this little village. Do some exploring, some looting. Typical gameplay loop sort of stuff, but just the way this game goes about it. There's a little hunting jacket. In fact, I've become over encumbered again because I picked up a rock. Absolute classic. So these are sharpening stones. Well, I say rock, sharpening stones. These are used for upgrading. Throwing knives. I probably don't need 33 throwing knives, so let's get rid of a bunch of them. Yeah, so that's sort of a bounty quest. That is like the minimum sort of level of a quest that I've been doing so far. And even then, we got this note. And yeah, you can see that it kind of links into the rest of the world. It's not just some thing that happened in a vacuum here. It's like, oh hey, this is actually connected. People know about this bandit. They hate this bandit because he's messing stuff up. There's a little like mini story going on there. Very, very Witcher 3, like I said. Yeah, game is great. Game is great. Trying to think if there's anything else that I really want to sort of mention about this one. Technical state, sort of, I've talked about that. Difficulty, that's one. 3 difficulties in the game. I can't remember the names of them, but I think Veteran was the hardest one. I would recommend playing this game on the hardest difficulty. I haven't been finding it too much of a challenge. A lot of that is going to be based on the fact that I've got 5 minions running around beating the crap out of everything for me, as well as me running around with a hammer, so that makes things a little bit easier, as you could imagine. Oh, I've got my shovel out. You can use my shovel as a weapon, if I wish. There's a guy with a bow and arrow on the back. Always a pain. They're always just firing away, and they're good at tracking you. The enemies are good at tracking you if you're not paying attention. Clonk you. And let's get in. Give you some of this. Get them, boys. Oh my god. Alright. Fair enough. Also a fun little thing that I forgot to mention. There's a slide. If you sprint and crouch, you do a slide. And there's even a skill that'll be like, hey, slow-mo during the slide. Okay, so you may notice that it just turned nighttime. I now have this kind of like orange ring around me that kind of follows me. And you may have noticed that that guy actually got possessed. Now, it's kind of a quick effect, but he did get possessed there. I got a cobweb from him because he is now an enemy at nighttime. And I've picked up stuff that I don't need. Is this heavy? So I'd have to fuel my thing by the bonfire, and then I could see whatever that is. Let's just drop that. We don't need that. That's a fairly normal item. So yeah, you go out at nighttime. This happens. The music gets all spooky, and it basically, like I said, through the story you are protected from this, but coming out at nighttime is more dangerous, a lot more fighting, random enemies will spawn, some of them can be quite nasty, but for now I'm just going to fast travel back to home, the home hub, or the first hub that I've come across anyway, and we're going to hand in that quest. There's also a ton of quests in this game. Oh, this guy's sleeping, so I need to wait till morning. Like, you could speak to everyone in here, and there's a lot of people in here. It looks a little bit empty now, obviously, because it's nighttime. But everyone, or at least 90% of them, had some kind of quest. It could be something minor, it could be something silly. There's a guy who wanted me to help him fight seagulls, for example, because he hates being by the ocean and having to deal with them. And then that could potentially progress into like a bigger quest, you know, like the quests haven't been just, hey, go get this, well done, here's money. Apart from the bounties, but that's kind of like what you expect from them. But even then, like I said, those sort of have further little story implications, world building, stuff like that.
State your business.
We'll talk to him and we'll be like, hey, I dealt with the giant person.
The giant. He used to rob travelers on the road. And if he wasn't satisfied with what they... Now his hefty body is lying in pieces in a puddle of blood.
Okay, yep, so that's that done, and we've handed that back in, and we got paid. 300 gold. Now 300 gold's like a decent amount, because we're talking about 5,000, and that's after me selling like a lot of stuff and playing the game for a bit. I found a player house, because there's player housing in this game, of course, why wouldn't there be? That costs like 20,000, and that is in like a slum. So that's like on the cheap end of player housing. So big money needed, big money needed, especially for potentially some bigger houses. Now, that's actually one thing that I didn't mention. You'll notice the voice acting. That's probably where you will notice that this is a lower budget game more than anywhere else. You will hear occasionally the odd character that you just sort of go like, okay, you know, they didn't have the money to pay for the big voice actors, so you know they kind of maybe it's people on the development team doing it. And if it is, I mean, it's good stuff. If this is people from the development team, or if this is like maybe, you know, like cheaper voice actors or something like that. Like I don't know. I haven't looked into it in that regard. Oh, don't mind him. He's just a ghost walking around. There's a reason for that, I promise. I'll have to play the game to find that out. But the voice acting and stuff like that, like I said, it's like one of the points you'll notice the game. Like, okay, you'll notice this is a bit lower budget voice acting and stuff like that, but it's not bad. And some of these voice actors, some of these characters, like they really go for it, and some of it works out a lot better than I really would expect, or that it has any right to be honest. You know, there's some really good stuff in here still. And that's kind of the overview of the whole game. Is I came into it, it's a cheaper game. It's like I said, £38, $45. Like that's good price for the scale of the game you're getting here, and for the gameplay and the mechanics, the world building, the questing. It's all really good. It's definitely that thing. I've seen a bit of a push between some people in the online sort of community about like we need games that look worse and cost less, and this is a great example of something like that. I think if you like your open world RPGs, you like your Bethesda games, you like your Witcher, your Cyberpunks, you like that sort of stuff, you'd be doing a disservice not to at least check this out. Like I said, there's a demo that you can try. This one has been a big surprise. I am a big fan of this. I'm excited to keep playing it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that's all I want to go over. Anything else would just be sort of story related stuff, and I don't really want to add any spoilers to that. I suppose the only thing I'll mention in that regard is that the story is interesting. I am interested to see where it goes. There's a cutscene near the beginning of the game that blew me away. Never seen anything like it in any of these sorts of games other than... When I say these sorts of games, I mean specifically like the Bethesda comparison. They don't really do like cutscenes per se. But the cutscene in this one was like, wow, okay. I am hooked on the vibe, I am hooked on the story, I am hooked on the music, you know. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to bring up on this one. I say only, as if we haven't been here for about 45 minutes. Good game. Check it out. Like I said, £38 or $44.99 or your regional equivalent. Pick it up on Steam. There'll be a link in the description to go to the Steam page. Check out the demo. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.